In another life, please don't say sorry. The story of a Saigonese girl and a young American soldier during the turbulent times before 75s. One day, her father brought home a young American man and introduced him to the family. It turned out that he was her dad's assistant in the army. This was the first time they met. She was only 16. At first sight, he saw her. He was impressed by her small figure with a ponytail. He looked at her without blinking, until she asked him with a swagger, "Is there anything on my face?" He then realized and shyly said sorry indistinctly. It's hard to give a reason why he was so attracted to her, while he was like being put into a trance. She was still phlegmatic and seemed not to take any notice of her dad's American fellow. He was offered to live upstairs for the convenience of his work, though they lived under the same roof, saw each other every day. They just minded their own business without caring about the other. For her, she considered him as her dad's colleague, not as her friend. Gradually, she knew that he was 24, from Washington, D.C. This assignment in Vietnam was his first job after graduation. He'd never been to Vietnam before. It came as a surprise to her that he had a really good command of Vietnamese. Normally, he was pretty quiet and looked serious, but whenever standing in front of her, he appeared to be confused and flushed, which just made her feel like teasing him. Once, during the dinner time, she put a fresh chili into her mouth, then gave him another one, told him that, "Try it, it's good." He thought it was real and imitated her, ate a whole chili, tried to chew it all the way. Afterwards, he choked and coughed. She then released a whole chili out of her mouth and splitted her sides with laughter. And him, his face showed bitterness, anger, and confusion at the same time. He took a glass of water and went straight upstairs. Till midnight, still not seeing him getting out of his room, she felt sorry and asked the little brother to bring him a glass of soya milk, as she wanted to beg off. However, later her brother went down and told her that he was not upstairs. Perhaps he could have gone somewhere. She intended to wait. But a few days later, she still had not seen him coming home. She overheard the conversation of her parents and knew that he was away on business. Having not seen him for a whole week, she certainly felt a bit empty. She thought a lot about her action that day. She felt guilty that she might have overteased him. He finally returned a week later. He came into the house and saw her in the living room. But he was still mad at her, so he pretended not seeing her and decided to take the luggage upstairs right away. From then on, he gave her the cold shoulder, which really hurt her pride. Then there was a phase that she had to burn the midnight oil for the baccalaureate exam every day at Mr. Haingo's class. One day, on her way home on Winhui Street, it was close to midnight, but there was something off with her bike, which caused her to walk home. She got to walk home while it was completely dark, which gave her shivers as she was scared of darkness and ghosts. Lucky her. While she was walking home shakily, out of the blue, he appeared and pulled the car over to ask her if she needed a lift home. Even though she was still mad at him, she agreed to let him drive her home. On the way home, neither of them said a single word. When they almost reached home, he lowered his voice and asked her, "Why do you hate me that much?" Being asked so unexpectedly, she gave a half-baked answer. "I do not hate you." He looked at her in the eyes, asked, "Then why did you want me to choke and cough because of that chili so that you could laugh?" She was absolutely confused after that question. Good for her that they reached home. She thanked him and got off quickly, left him with a dazed look. That night was strange for her. For the first time in her life, she couldn't sleep because of a guy. She just couldn't stop thinking about him. The next day, she needed to get to class early in the morning, but she decided to linger for a few minutes just to see him. Then she had to live without having not seen him yet. She believed that she would be able to see him after school. However, when she got home after school, her dad told her there was something urgent which required him to get back home. The days went by without seeing him. She couldn't sit still. She got ants in her pants all day long and couldn't focus on any single thing at all. Ultimately, he returned back to Vietnam. The moment she saw him coming to the house, she was on cloud nine. Literally, anyone could tell how happy she was at the time through her eyes. He put down the suitcase, looked at her lovingly, and asked, "You miss me?" The surprising question made her pause for a few seconds, blushed and embarrassed, like being caught in the very act. She then found an excuse to live. On her 17th birthday, she invited her friends over. A bunch of them talked and laughed loudly. When the party was over, she went back to her room. She saw him standing there, holding a bunch of roses. He moved forward and gave it to her, then left quickly. Holding a bouquet of flowers, her heart fluttered. Sitting in bed, she just kept looking at the bouquets the whole night and felt soft rose petals. There was also a small card attached, which was written, "My girl, the first time I saw you, you looked graceful. The second time I saw you, you were artful like a cat. The third time I saw you, that cat stole my heart. Now, where did you put my heart? Can I have it back, please?" Oh my God, what should I do now? She wondered. After reading that card, her face turned pale. One more sleepless night. The following morning, she didn't dare to get out of her room, since she was afraid that she would have had no idea what to say if she had seen him. And that was the first time she found love. Her first love started like that, pleasantly and gently. That year, she took the IBM Baccalaureate exam for the first time in Quy Nhon. Passing the exam with full of confidence, she expedited the procedures to study abroad. A morning in early 1975, he went to Saigon for an urgent meeting and was unable to return. At the same time, All US diplomatic staffs were ordered to withdraw from South Vietnam. He called her dad in order to implore him to take the whole family to America with him. He said that he had arranged a flight for them, but her father refused. He called again. This time, he asked her dad insistently for his permission to marry his daughter, but there was no way on the earth her dad allowed his daughter to marry a man from a faraway land. She had no clue about this. She just kept waiting for him and secretly blamed him for his living without saying goodbye. In the middle of 1975, her family went through an event. Her dad was imprisoned. Her house was confiscated. Her dream of studying abroad was also shattered. Her whole family scattered like autumn leaves falling down. She broke down for a while. She then picked up the pieces bit by bit. She helped her mom trade to make enough money to raise her siblings. She finally got married to a man. However, her life after marriage wasn't happy at all. She was disappointed in her husband, as her husband was kind of someone who had a weak character. Just listened to his mom. Someone she felt that not strong enough to protect her or keep her safe. As for her mother-in-law, she was so harsh on her, which caused her to be exhausted in terms of both mentality and physicality. Even though she was heavily pregnant, she still had to work hard as if she had been a maid servant. She did feel resentment towards her spouse, and her love for him also faded much less over the time. She then gave birth to a baby girl, which she thought could have saved the circumstances. She was also lonely in her own house that she once wanted to get divorced, since she found herself suffering so much that she just couldn't stand it anymore. Then she found out that she got pregnant for the second time. There were times that she felt melancholy. She hugged her kids. The more tightly she hugged them, the more she missed him, her first love. Later, she knew the conversation on the phone between her dad and him years ago, when her dad told her in a regretful voice, "No, things would turn like this. I've let you marry him." Once, she learned that he had tried every possible way to take her with him, but things were chaotic at the time. He couldn't do anything else. She believed that he was as heartbroken as she was, accepting the fact that they had to be apart. She resigned herself to her fate and did not blame him anymore. Not long later, a stranger reached to her mother, gave her some money with a piece of paper having his phone number and his address in America. She looked at the piece of paper constantly and cried her eyes out. She didn't know what to do with it, but to keep it carefully so that she could take it out to look at from time to time.